Happy post-4th of July, everybody. It is July 5th, and this is Humor Me with Ed Crasnick. It's the show that's all about comedy from the creators. And tonight we have an amazing, this guy is an all-time great, which are words that I've never said before. I've never said all-time great, which I think will date me. But he's one of the most creative people ever to work, I think, in comedy. And his name is Jonathan Katz. He'll be joining us shortly. The 4th of July is a big day for me because my family, of course, original signers on the Declaration of Codependence.
I don't know why, but I feel like this is the one that's going to go viral. There's no reason that it's different. It's not that different than other videos I've made, but this one, people are going to see it and they're going to say, it's going viral. I'm guessing that by midnight tonight, more than I'm going to be ambitious. More than 200 million people will see this in more than 30 countries. No, wait. More than 30 people will see this in more than 200 million countries. No, I don't know how many people are going to see it, but it's going viral. That's all I know. It's the kind of thing that you'll see it and you'll suggest it to all your friends, and their friends will suggest it to their friends. I guess I'm just explaining what the word viral means now.
Well, folks, that's the great Jonathan Katz joining us shortly, and I just wanted to tell you, you know, when you're coming down off the high of the 4th of July, and you're coming down off the high of the American Barbecue Festival, which is what they should call the 4th of July. I actually woke up with barbecue sauce on my pillow, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks a lot. No, I love the idea of 4th of July, but I think that the Founding Fathers would have a little, you know, I think they'd be a little surprised at what's happened in the country. The first thing I think they would do is they would actually cut Florida off the map. That would be number one. And then no one would be allowed to see the show Good Times because of the character of Florida starring in it. I'm not going to go into what happened in Florida. You know what? Because what happens in Florida should stay in Florida. That's the state motto. You know, but I was driving home. I was in the desert with my family, and you know, when Jews go to the desert, they go to the desert. Yeah, I was in the desert, and this time of year, it really is quite warm. I actually saw Satan at a supermarket, and he said, I got to get out. I'm on my way out of town. It's warm over there. And I have to tell you that I lost 40 pounds, and I feel so much lighter. And I was on my way back, driving back from the desert to Los Angeles today, and I'm listening to a variety of radio stations because when you pass by all the different frequencies, you hear the whole range of broadcast media on your radio. You know, it comes in and out, and basically I was listening to a show. They were talking about the trial today. I'm speaking, of course, of Franz Kafka's The Trial. No, I'm speaking of course, of the O.J. No, I'm speaking, of course, of the Casey Anthony, that trial. And the guy who was hosting the show, he had an expert on with him, and her name was the Murder Lady, not the church lady, not a happening lady, but the Murder Lady. Her expertise is murder. And I want to know, how can I get a job like that? Because the hours have got to be pretty good. You work a very small amount of time, but your reports pack a punch. And I was sort of interested in that. And I've been thinking about different careers. Why, you might ask? No, you might not. And one of them is ventriloquism. I love ventriloquism. I have since I was a kid. And I realized through therapy that I am actually my own ventriloquist. And I actually am throwing my emotions at this point. I can actually do an act, and I don't need a puppet. So I'm thinking about that. I've also been thinking about shoes. I think that shoes are going to make a comeback. And I have to tell you that that the other thing that I've been doing is I've been trying to learn how to drive properly. My father taught me how to drive, and my father used to drive. He was sound asleep, and he literally went through the garage. He backed through it, went through the door, and kept going. I'm not kidding. My father was the kind of guy who, because he worked 2 jobs, he was an amazing, a tireless worker. And true story about my father, the great Philip Crasnick. My father went over on the Normandy, the World War II D-Day invasion, and he brought in his duffel bag with him 2 dumbbells, each weighing 40 pounds, so 80 pounds of additional weight coming off the carrier, being shot at. And the reason why he did that is because he said, I said, why would you do that, Dad? He said, well, where am I going to exercise? So my father was an exercise nut. He really was. He believed that that was the answer to everything. And since, and I used to make fun of him, but now I really believe that. I believe that you have to exercise. While I'm interviewing my guest tonight, I'm actually working my calves. And I'll hold. Okay. I can't say enough about my guest tonight, all the way from Newton, Massachusetts, which is outside of Boston, is a terrific stand-up comic for many years, and legendary for a show, a groundbreaking show, definitely a groundbreaking show. Comedically, it was called Dr. Katz, Professional Therapist. It was on Comedy Central, and they invented something called Squiggle Vision, a certain kind of animation with Tom Snyder back there, not the Tom Snyder who did The Tomorrow Show, but the other Tom Snyder. And what he created was incredible, and he's got a new show that he's going to talk to us about. Would you please welcome, all the way from Newton, Jonathan Katz. Jonathan?
Can you hear me?
Nope. No, I can hear you, and you sound great. Are you using like a THX sound tonight, or a Dolby? Are you coming across in Dolby?
No, you know what? I have no noise reduction in my life anymore.
You have to, a lot of people hear voices, and then you hope that it can be less than the sound in the movie theater.
But I guess I'm hearing the delay, and I don't want to bore your viewers with the technical stuff.
Right.
But if I could for a minute, this is a joke. I'm wondering if it's going to work on the web. What is that thing behind you, Ed?
That is my face, and that's our logo. There's a logo, guys. If you see, that's the logo.
But again, no, you have to. No, you have to turn around and look for this joke to work. Major look.
All right. It never gets old.
No,
never gets old.
I have a friend who loves that joke so much he does it on the phone, and he comes over. It's true.
Listen, you are you're my hero for a lot of reasons, but one reason in particular is you've managed a very good career in show business, doing really interesting things, and you never had to leave, you never left the Boston area. You're comfortably sitting in your den, which is a pastiche of colors, and you never left that area, and yet you had a nice career out here. You have a nice career out here in LA and all over the place. How do you do it, and how can I do it?
Well, one thing that made it possible was, and that continues to make it easier, is the internet, because I actually haven't left this room in about 17 years.
Yeah.
But no, I think it was a combination of dumb luck. It was meeting Tom Snyder, the co-creator of Dr. Katz.
Yeah.
It was getting seen by the Letterman producers and becoming a national act, which made it just being near an airport was all you needed in those days.
Right.
And then some funnier reasons.
Do you remember your first time on Letterman? Do you remember what that was like?
I do. And not only that, I was so scared that some casting director read that as an angry guy. It was just fear. And he called me in to read for some kind of crime show the next day.
Yeah. And now you've done a lot. You've done a fair amount of acting. You've done some films, and tell me though, tell me how the movie House of Games came into be, because you actually did you co-write that with David Mamet?
No, I actually got the coffee while he wrote it.
Right.
But you know, the idea was, Dave and I used to go to a place in New York called the House of Games. And it was a place where you could gamble in pool, and backgammon, and table tennis. And he was my shill, and vice versa. And both of us became enchanted by the idea of con men. And we actually became con men. We used to do this ping pong hustle where during every point, I would play somebody in the crowd, and during every point, I would have to recall some painful experience from my adolescence. And it worked.
Fantastic! It was. Were you a professional, almost like professional level ping pong player?
I was one of the highest ranked players in the late '70s and the mid '80s in the country. And I was in 1964. Geez, I was the New York State champion.
Did you play in Madison Square Garden?
I played with a Japanese guy. I opened for the Globetrotters.
I'm sorry.
I don't know. I don't know what's true anymore. I honestly don't. But I'm pretty sure that happened.
That is, I don't know of anybody who has that on their resume. You say, now, I read here, it's nice to meet you. Now, tell me about the opening for the Globetrotters at Madison Square Garden, and let's forget about the role that you came in for. Now, the other story, there's so many Jonathan Katz stories that go on, and I have to check this out and see if it's true. You might have been in a David Mamet film at the time, but was there something, you were acting in a scene with Robert De Niro? And
I was reading for a role in a movie that David was directing with De Niro.
Right. And there was something that you did. He started to go into some warm-ups or some kind of precursor to the scene, and you said something?
He started reading his lines, and I told him to stop. And I think that was about as scared as I've ever been in my life. Just asking him to stop. But I also was in a movie where, I can't think of the guy's name. It was a movie called The Spanish Prisoner.
Oh yeah.
And there was an actor who was kind of, and I think I can use the word lush on the web. Right? He was kind of a lush, and he was very cranky by the time I had messed up about 25 takes. And I had to ask David to leave the room because every time he said action, I giggled. So finally, this guy says, I've got to think of his name. It's like not Ephraim Zimbalist Jr., but something like that. Might have been his dad. Oh, no. Finally, he said, the man is an imbecile. You're talking about me.
It's hard to know the fact and fiction. It's the truth, the strength of it.
Can you ask one of your staff to see who was in Spanish Prisoner, the actors?
Yes, I know who was in Spanish Prisoner. I think, was Steve Martin in Spanish Prisoner?
Steve Martin was the star.
Yeah.
And then there was a really bad guy. I mean, everybody was a bad guy, but Campbell Scott was in it, Rebecca Pidgeon, but the guy I can't think of, Ben Gazzara, maybe?
Could have been Ben Gazzara. He's from Dorchester, so yeah, probably.
But he's the guy who called me an imbecile.
And does that
like him to come here and say that?
And you just shake that off and you go on? The thing is that I will never forget about you. This is very interesting. Now, there was a show, a sitcom that you developed and created, and then brought in all these writers, and you're holding up the tape now, and the show is called Raising Dad. It was a show with a sitcom with Jonathan, with of course you, and we're running it. And then there was, don't tell me, Kat Dennings, who's doing very well now,
as well as Brie Larson.
And Brie Larson, yeah. from the United States of Tara. She's absolutely
Right.
brilliant. We knew she was a terrific actress even then.
Yeah.
And Kat Dennings has done very well with the Michael Cera film, The Infinite Playlist. I mean, she's doing
Right.
everything. But you came into the writer's room. And, you know, when you're on a sitcom, oftentimes you group write. You're in a big room. There's a big screen up on the wall projected, and there's the script, really large type, and everybody in the room is yelling suggestions to try to make the script better, trying to punch it
Right.
up. You came into that room, and you could not stop giggling. You could not.
First of all, I didn't realize I was in charge. Even though my name was at the top of the list of credits,
Yeah.
I was the executive producer, I was the head writer, and I still didn't get the idea that I was in charge, and I would just giggle because I couldn't believe that people would negotiate in comedy. It just struck me as funny.
That it was a group writing thing, and that you could change words as a group. Well, the other night, oh, by the way, we have to say hello to Norman Steinberg, because Norman Steinberg came in to run it with you.
Right.
And then he became a mentor, and we've had Norman on the show and friends. And I met so many great people through that. And of course, I met my wife through that show.
Right.
That's all you're going to say?
No, I'm going to say, how is she?
She's doing great. How's the weather there now? All right. Now, I ask you these questions
but
because the other night I went to see Albert Brooks speak about his book. And he talked about the way that he works, the way that he writes scripts. And I never realized this, but apparently he acts it out on tape, does all the characters, and then hands the tape to somebody who transcribes it into a script.
Right.
How do you write? What do you do?
I hand this stuff to Albert Brooks, and he hands it. No, I very often work from audio to text, or from text to audio, depending on who I'm working with, because I can manipulate both almost as well as the other. Wait, that's not correct. each as well as the next.
Yeah. So you'll dictate into some type of a, what am I, Strom Thurmond now? There's a machine that you dictate. You dictate into a tape recorder.
There's a microphone. There's always at least one microphone within an inch of my face.
Yeah.
So I'm always recording stuff, editing it, and then I will send the edited version to somebody. They'll send it back with notes, and then we'll go from there to a written version, or the other way around. I'll start with, if I'm working with Bill Broaddus, who says hi, by the way.
Hey, Bill.
I'll work with tech. I'll go from text to audio, because he's more comfortable working that way.
I think. Go ahead.
Working with Tom Snyder's the opposite. We go from audio to text, and sometimes we skip the text part. We go from audio to animation.
Tell me about that, because you've had two huge projects with, more than two, I'm sure, but you had Dr. Katz. And tell me how Dr. Katz came into being and what the collaboration was like, how you produced that show, because it was very unique.
Can we come back to that?
Yes.
Can I just remind you about Lowell, Massachusetts for 1 second?
Yes, go ahead.
Can you picture Lowell?
Yes.
It's a working class mill city. And I went there with my wife just on a lark. And we're driving around, and I see one store that says Crasnick's Dreidel Shop. And it's a place where they repair dreidels in a very working class town. Anyway, I'm guessing that's the family business, Ed.
It is, and actually, we were the family. I guess when we came to Ellis Island, everybody in the family, no one would look ahead, they would turn around. And so as a result of that, we said we should really do something with this.
Right.
And they used a lot of Hebrew in those days. So dreidels were very popular. There was actually a speakeasy that my grandparents had that was all dreidel all the time.
So I'm sorry, your question was about Dr. Katz.
My question, why am I laughing like Steve Allen now? Okay, my question was basically, go ahead.
Do you remember the word he invented, Steve Allen?
Can't remember.
I'll give you a hint. Schmuck!
Oh, that's right. Right. He would say, and I want to say to all the people watching the the internet, right, watching the machine right now, look it
Right.
up. Go look up Steve Allen if you don't know who he is, because he basically helped to start what we now know as The Tonight Show.
And also was a superb musician, Steve Allen.
He
He
said that
wrote wonderful music.
he was writing a song. Every time that he sat down, he wrote a song. He had about 1,000 songs that he had written, but some of them were like, hello, and that was a song. So anyway.
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit,
Well,
which is
inside.
a good thing.
Inside.
Right.
Now, so we'll talk about Dr. Katz a little bit, because I was lucky enough to do the show once. It was one of the nicest experiences I've ever had, because it was so creative, and the feeling around doing it, everybody was having such a good time that you wanted to just stay there, you know?
Well, for the uninitiated, Dr. Katz was a cartoon, and Dr. Katz was a role I played of a therapist, and all of my patients were stand-up comedians. So it was just a different way to present their material and roll to clip. No, I don't have that kind of control. But, you know, I met Tom, who lives about, I don't know, 10 minutes from me in Cambridge.
Mm-hmm.
And we met because he and his wife one day went to see this movie, Things Change.
Which you were in?
Right, a David Mamet movie in which I played a comedian named Jackie Shore.
Right.
And Tom was sort of taken with my style of comedy. We got together, we became good friends, and after a couple of projects before Dr. Katz, we did something called Live from the Teacher's Lounge, which you will never see. A couple of other things we tried, and then we arrived at Dr. Katz, and he had been experimenting with the world of therapy and comedy. Comedy was his hobby. Educational software was his livelihood.
Very unique combination.
Try to turn that into a lyric.
Tom Lehrer couldn't turn that into a lyric. But the way that you did Dr. Katz, how did you figure out that the best way to produce the show was to have the comedians come in and just do their acts, as opposed to a conversation with you?
Well, because we tried initially. I took my role very very seriously, my role of therapist, and I actually made Kathy Ladman cry. So we figured we should try another approach that might actually inspire some comedy. And I think it was Ray Romano, who's just a wonderful actor, who just, Tom said to him one day, "Why don't you just do your act, and we'll add Jonathan's voice after the fact." And that was the beginning of the way we worked. Excuse me, I think I'm about to throw up.
It's bringing you back to some uncomfortable times.
Yeah, but Ray really was the first, and of course Don Herrera, who is just a guy I've known for so long. We could just talk to each other, and something funny will happen.
Sure. And did you do? We'll come back to Dr. Katz because it's fascinating. Did you do a lot of road work as a comic? I'm trying to picture you on the road.
I worked maybe 15 years on the road. I worked in every state from New York to New Jersey.
It sounds like a
there are no states between New York and New Jersey. I worked from one coast to the other, and I think the only state I didn't work in was in Texas. Maybe no, did I work in Texas? I don't think I worked in Texas.
What was your act like? Did you have a road act and then an in-town act, or what was the act that traveled well on the road?
Well, I did a lot of music in my act, and that helped. But my I always want to quote Richard Lewis when I hear him talking about working on the road, because he talked about working in some gymnasium in the South, and the guy who introduced him said, "Please welcome the Hebraic stylings of Mr. Richard Lewis." I kind of felt like an alien in a lot of places, but I worked to win the crowd over, and sometimes I didn't win them over. Sometimes I had to sneak out the back. like at Nick's in Boston, which is a really tough room.
Oh my God! Yeah.
I called some woman a really bad name, which I won't repeat.
Mm-hmm.
And I had just followed Lenny Clark, Don Gavin, Kevin Meaney had sang "We Are the World," Dom had gone on, and now me, and I looked like everybody's accountant.
Yeah.
And they were taking bets on how long I would last.
What? Well,
And
yeah, go ahead.
but I never left the stage. I waited for the audience to leave. I don't know if you could visualize everyone. I hid behind the sound booth for it to come out.
Yeah. Well, that club, I don't want. It was a real mob-style club in the city, and they had one at the Kowloon. They had one in the suburbs where they had like
Right.
gangland murders, and then a comedy show on top of it. You would have. So
You know what? Did you see what they're saying now? Is that even the mafia is controlled by the mob? I'm working too hard. Well, I'm not working hard enough.
You can't get away from it. But I have seen you. I saw one night, and we all have these nights. The material
Yeah.
is brilliant. The audience just is not. They're drunk. They're not there, present. They're not listening. And this was a night. This was a night in Gardner.
Right, right.
And I'm watching you perform, and your material is so brilliant. But there's nothing funnier than watching like a really brilliant comedian and an audience that is drunk or doesn't get them, because
I don't know why that. It is funny. I don't know why that is though. Why is that?
I don't know, but that particular night, what you did, you didn't yell back at them, but what you did was fascinating. You would do your jokes, and then you would look at the audience and you would say, "Precisely, ladies and gentlemen."
Right.
Exactly.
I remember that.
Exactly.
Right.
And I just thought that was fantastic.
Well, thank you. I wish I could have been there.
Yeah, I understand. Now? You have a new show now. There's a new show, and it's like looking at beautiful drawings with great comedy, and it's in black and white. Tell me, let's take a look at a clip. We're going to take a look at a clip. We'll come back. We're going to talk about "Hey, We're Back."
Okay.
And I'm actually going to say the words "Hey, we're back" when we come back.
That'll make sense, even then.
Yeah, it'll be the first segue I've ever done that makes sense. Okay, take a look at "Hey, We're Back," Jonathan Katz's new show, and then we're going to come back with more.
Hey, we're back. This is Jonathan Katz, the guy who likes to say, "Hey, we're back." I don't get it either. Hey, Sandy Briscoe was my best friend at Oxford. We remained friends for years after school, but little by little we drifted apart until I heard one day that he was working in South America studying the mating habits of an insect, and I decided to pay him a surprise visit. I think I see him about 100 yards from where I'm standing right now. I'm approaching as quietly as I can. I don't want him to see me coming. I really want this to be a complete surprise. I'm just going to put down my state-of-the-art Nagra and see if I can get a little closer.
Hey, Sandy, it's Sandy! Over here, it's me, John Katz. I'm just putting it down.
Please don't put that there.
Oh, shit. So in that 1 second, not only did I destroy 20 years of friendship, I also destroyed the insect that had been on the endangered list.
Now it can't be endangered, because there's nothing to endanger.
I returned to New York with my tail between my legs, and I looked up my old friend Rachel Simon. Rachel Simon is a dominatrix, and recently created a niche market for herself. She is a dominatrix who specializes in grammar.
Verbs.
Liking, hiking.
Adjectives and adverbs.
Pretty, nicely, gross.
Prepositional pronouns.
That's tough. That is tough.
Nouns.
Book. Tree.
Possessive adjectives.
Oh boy, the gloves are coming off. That's the work of this woman, Lindy Bazil, who showed up at my fan site one day and had never done animation, and she does this extraordinary work.
It's
really beautiful.
It's amazing. It's beautiful, and it suits your personality so well. It suits your comedy so well. and so how did she? So "Hey, We're Back." How did this start? And how did you? So she was on the fan page. How did you put it all together?
Well, I've been doing this podcast since 2007, and a lot of the audio that she animates is from the original podcast, and then I'm slowly introducing some new characters. But it's really kind of what Ricky Gervais did, where he took his podcast, which is very different than mine, and then had it animated. I feel like I'm leaving a couple of steps out. Did I mention the part where I had it animated?
Yeah, right. Well, did this come out of a and there was an idea that you told me about a while ago, and it was the idea to do an animated documentary.
Right, and that's become the Explosion Bus, which is a show that will debut in September. I know we're going to change the name if it airs, but it's but right now that's the name, and it's this incredible 7-season series with 4 or 5 episodes per season, a wonderful cast, wonderful story, and they're full-length episodes, like TV-length episodes.
And didn't you do it? Wasn't Lisa Kudrow involved in that in some way?
She did nothing to prevent it, if that's what you mean. No, Lisa Kudrow is a voice in a pilot that Tom and I did for Fox, which didn't make it onto air, called Say Uncle.
Okay, all right.
But
so this show, Hey, We're Back. This is Lindy is drawing and animating to some of your podcast material.
Right, and additional material, and the music is original music that I've written, and I'm trying to I'm becoming this producer that I was supposed to be in California, but it's much easier because it's just me, not all these writers around.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you how.
I actually had to write up I actually had to put together a line budget today, which is something that I've never done. I've never figured out how much things cost.
I have no idea, but what I've got is I have a program now, and as you're writing the screenplay, it's actually measuring the budget and it puts it in on the side.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Is that the new collaboration between Quicken and Final Draft?
Yeah, it's Quicken the movie, is what it is.
I wish you could enjoy my company in real time, and mine and me yours.
Well, I'm as virtually happy as I'm ever going to be right now. This is the best thing. It's just great to see you, first of all.
Hey, second of all, who said anything about child pornography?
Oh, boy.
Because that's the one issue where I think you and I can both agree that child pornographers are the scum of the earth. Am I right?
We can both agree on that.
The lowest form of life on this planet.
Correct.
And I feel like they should be prosecuted as if they were adults.
Hey, tell me before, I've got a few things that I wanted to talk to you before we go into our Fast Five. We have a Fast Five thing, which I'm going to tell you about.
Okay.
You saw this economic thing that's happening right now, the economic struggles, the economic fallout. You saw it affecting the comedy industry. Because at one time, the comedy industry was booming.
Most Americans were comedians at one point. Maybe in the early 90s, I would say 2 out of 3 Americans were working in the comedy industry. And then the bottom started falling out. And remember, at the peak, I went shopping at maybe Filene's, and I asked the guy, where can I find men's shoes? And he said, on men's feet, Sparky. So everybody was giving it a shot. I went to a funeral, and the rabbi said, this is my 3rd funeral this week, and I'm not a morning person.
Now,
so
yeah,
it's comedy is, and if you want to talk about Casey Anthony, she beat the rap, but let's see her put together a tight 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I'm saying?
Probably
it's a very different skill.
It's a very, very different skill. Yeah, very difficult. You are also an animal. You're also an animal lover. I want to get this in because you've done a lot of work with Quaker parrots. I remember.
Well, Quaker parrots, and I also have a home in Medfield, Massachusetts, for troubled animals. That it's just philanthropic work that I do with David Mamet. We have a goose with Down syndrome. We have a nervous tick. A praying mantis whose faith has been shaken. We have an amoeba with a split personality. I'm working too hard here.
No, it's good. It's good.
No, I think. But you're asking about my bird.
I'm asking about you had a Quaker parrot, and the thing about that parrot is tremendous vocabulary.
Yes, and also because of the political climate, he still talks. But now, because of the political climate, he couches everything in the phrase "the best of my knowledge." But but
Didn't
but
he?
this bird,
Yeah.
well, he one night, and this is while I was working on the road. I came home, and I had been worried that my wife had been fooling around. And I heard the bird say, "Give it to me hard and fast before my husband John Katz comes home." And yes, I'd love a cracker.
Oh my God, it's so beautiful. One night you really made an impact in in my life as a young comic because I was doing a show in Boston. My parents were in the audience, and you actually
Right.
came up to my parents, and I think you gave them the thrill of their life when you said, "Ed is such a wonderful comedian, but why does he have to work so blue?"
I remember that.
And those are my two, Jonathan. Had that one, and then the other one was I had called you up. I was in town, Boston. I called you up. I said, "How you doing?" And I told you that my father had had a heart attack, but he was fine. He was okay. And you said to me, "Ed, my father passed away last week. How do you like that? I topped you."
Well, every time I mention, and I'm surprised I haven't brought it up tonight, that my mom died when I was 16, because every time I say that, John Benjamin says, "What took you so long?" Because I usually open every conversation with that fact. 16-year-old kid in New York City, no mom.
Well,
Good night.
yeah, it's good. It's good to be back. What do you still? And I don't want to segue from your mom because obviously you were. I'm sure you were very close to her. Did you have her sense of humor? Was that what you got?
I had my dad's legs and my mother's. I guess my mother was kind of an activist and wild in her time.
Yeah.
She lived in Woodstock, New York, if you know what I mean.
Well, and you have siblings? Do I know? Do you have a sister?
I have an older sister, Phyllis, who lives in Puerto Rico with her husband Jose and her kids, Beril and Serena Montalvo.
What are they running from?
Me.
Mm-hmm.
No, my sister. My family moved every 6 months, and my sister and I have no idea why.
Yeah.
When we were kids, but she's happy in Puerto Rico. She likes it there.
Sure, it's a beautiful place. Beautiful place.
Yeah.
Tell me about the cast of Dr. Katz have done. Everybody's gone on to do great things. You mentioned John Benjamin.
Has 3 shows on the air now.
He has 3 shows. He has a corporation in Paramus, New Jersey. What
Right.
do you keep in touch with John? Do you keep in touch with Laura Silverman? Do you keep in touch with?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. In fact, I think someday soon you're going to see John Benjamin portraying Hannah Montana on Hey We're Back.
You had such a great relationship with him.
Yeah.
It was so terrific. And did he ever ask you for advice or anything? Did John and Laura come to you for, what should I do in my career? What direction should I head in?
Not really. They asked me for rides, though.
Yeah.
I used to pick up Laura to get her to the studio, and it was kind of like a running gag because I always suggested we stop and get a latte, and I never had any money on me. So I always picked her up, and she bought me very fancy coffee on the way to work. But John and Laura were a couple during the last stage of Dr. Katz.
Sure.
So the anger they had, I hope I'm not telling tales out of school, because that's an expression everybody uses now. But the anger that the characters had worked, or the anger that the people had worked as characters is a better way to put it.
Wow. They used it. Laura's
Right.
been on this show. She's amazing. And John will come on, and he's got this new show. I don't know if you've seen it yet. Have you seen the Comedy Central show?
Oh, I love his show, his new show. It's unbelievable.
Hysterical, yeah. So we're going to reunite everybody. This is going to become the show that reunites people.
As long as you don't bring us to Rome for that special episode, you know what I mean?
It's going to be
That's where you jump the shark. And that's it. Why did Ed have to do his internet show from Rome?
Yeah, that's what I'm going to be
It's the
doing.
web.
That's what because I like to do I never do nothing nice and easy. I always do it nice and rough. Going to take the first half and do. All right. I've got Fast Five for you. This is what we do. We ask 5 questions, and unrelated, and no right or wrong or answers. Just thought questions, and we have to answer all of them in 60 seconds. We call it.
But Ed, have I said anything that I should be ashamed of yet?
I'm going to look at the transcript.
Okay.
Okay. So let me ask you these fast 5 questions. Let's put 60 seconds on the clock. And Jonathan, get set. All right, here we go. Here we go. Fast 5, Jonathan Katz. 60 seconds on the clock. Number 1, a superpower you would like to have.
Flossing. I'd never been able to floss. I actually hurt my wrist one day flossing.
Okay.
I know it's not a superpower, but it just would feel that way.
Okay, number 2, favorite Peter Falk movie.
Oh, that's easy. Husbands and Wives.
Oh,
Was he in that?
A Woman Under the Influence. Or Husbands.
Husbands.
Was the name of the movie. John Cassavetes.
Right, thank you.
But
Yep.
But Husbands and Wives.
And I got to work with, that one is a Woody Allen movie and one is a Cassavetes movie.
That's
and they're
right.
both great movies in it. But I forget which one he was in.
He was in Husbands.
Right.
Yeah. How would Oprah introduce, and we missed Peter Falk, right? Peter Falk was amazing. How would Oprah introduce God?
This next guy.
All right. Works all the clubs and colleges.
Yeah.
Which country has the best flag?
That's, you got to, obvious. Because of the whole, they have the whole Paisley thing now. And I actually don't really know the answer to that. I'm not a big flag guy.
You're not a big flag-waving American?
But I know what I like. Nah.
All right.
I don't think. But can we move on to the next one?
Sure.
Or have we done them all?
No. Here's number 5.
Okay.
Who killed JFK?
Whiplash. And I have the video to prove it.
I've never, and it's animated. There's never been an animated Zapruder film, and I think it's time. We might learn more. Okay, so I wanna head out on something, Jonathan. A number of years ago, you did a film. It was a film in black and white, and it was a film that was directed, I want to say, by Steve Kessler. Could I be right about that?
That's correct. Yep.
Who later went on to direct European Vacation or Vegas Vacation or something?
Right, and also made a wonderful movie with Janine Garofalo and Jerry Stiller called The Independent, which I'll make sure you get to see someday. I played a small role in that.
Oh, cool. Very good.
But it was a really wonderful movie.
He's a very talented guy, and from this film, I think the people saw this, and I mean anybody who knows him, tremendously talented. But this is a very specific kind of thing. You you went down to interview in New York. You went to interview one of the legends of talk shows, local talk shows, a guy named Joe Franklin. And Joe Franklin, at one time or another, had Barbra Streisand, had Elvis, had every celebrity in the world on his local WOR talk show.
Right.
And you went to spend a day with him. And, and we have a clip from this. And is there anything that you want to say in your defense before we show the clip?
He smells weird.
Yeah.
But no. He was actually very pleasant, and this was a pilot for a show called A Day in the Life for a company called Ha TV, which was Comedy Central's ugly stepsister.
The early days of what became Comedy Central.
Right.
Now, when the comedy was actually in the Central. And so here, we're going to have this, and is there anything you want to say in your closing arguments? Because we're going to say so long here, and then we're going to close on the clip of A Day in the Life of Joe Franklin.
Just thank you so much for spending some time with me, Ed, because I have enormous respect for your work, and let me check my notes here. And your talent, and I was gonna ask your opinion about this, about Obama. You know, Obama's calling for a National Day of Compassion. Did you read about that?
I did not, but I will.
I'm not. I don't know about you. I'm uncomfortable with it becoming law, but in case I'm wrong, Tuesdays don't work for me.
Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only Jonathan. Thanks so much for doing this, and
Thank you.
we'll talk.
Thank
And
you.
it's such a pleasure to see you.
Oh, and likewise.
All right. Take it easy. And Jonathan Katz, everybody. And now let's go out and we're going to watch a clip of Jonathan and Joe Franklin from the film A Day in the Life of Joe Franklin. Next week, Paul Gilmartin, then Dana Gould. And then we're going to do something very special. So, and probably from Rome. Thanks for watching. Keep coming back. It works if you work it. I'm Ed Crasnick. That's Jonathan Katz. See you next time.
Stay in school, kids.
Stay in school.
If you could be somebody else for 24 hours, anyone in the world, living or dead, who would you choose?
Dick Clark.
How do you work that out, the intros for a guest? I mean, that seems to be...
I just make it flowery,
Yeah,
so that I can feel good, make them feel important.
yeah. That's a gift of yours, I think.
Well, I give the same build-up to a young person as I gave through the years to Elvis Presley.
Right.
I gave the first exposure to, I mean, even when Eddie Murphy or Bruce Springsteen were unknown, I said, superstar, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
I make them all
Right.
feel good.